I saw Ralph Breaks the Internet upwards of a dozen times at theaters just like this one, but it's not a perfect movie, and I'm going to show you everything that's wrong with Ralph Breaks the Internet right now.
Don't you know that you're a grown-up? No games, no puns. Not allowed if you're a grown-up.
Hello again, welcome back to Gen X Grown Up. I'm John. I am a Gen X Grown Up. Thanks for checking out this video and the channel. I am back to the scene of the crime, one of the many theaters that I spent hundreds of dollars seeing the two films in the Wreck-It Ralph franchise, both Wreck-It Ralph in 2012 and Ralph Breaks the Internet in 2018. I love both of those films, the whole universe they've created. Now, as a super fan of these films, you can imagine how exciting it was for me to go and see Ralph Breaks the Internet a couple of weeks early in Hollywood. I'll put a link to that road trip and video and review up in the corner if you want to check it out. Despite the fact that I love this movie, I'm not here to shower more praise on it. In fact, I'm here to talk about all the things I have found that are wrong with Ralph Breaks the Internet. Before I begin though, if this is your first time checking us out, click that little link on the banner down below and enable notifications. Every new subscription I get validates me as a human being, so help out your fellow man. Enough of that though, it's time to get started. And hey, if you stick around to the very end, I'll share with you a link in Ralph Breaks the Internet to a 1999 cult comedy classic that you probably missed. All right, let's go. There's no better place to begin than the beginning with the Tron virus. Right in the first few minutes of the movie, Ralph and Vanellope decide to go for a joyride in the light cycle section of the Tron arcade game, even though they know there's a virus in the Tron game. They're having a great time when the virus seems to kick in, the light cycles explode, and they freeze in a glitched out version of this Tron racing level. The problem is, old school arcade games didn't have viruses. You know why they call arcade ROMs ROMs? Because they're ROMs, they're read-only memory. You can't write viruses onto a ROM, so a Tron arcade game couldn't have a virus. And that's why the creepy guy at your 80s arcade making change from his belt didn't also have a copy of Norton Antivirus, because you didn't need it. Let's stay in the arcade for this next one and talk about one of the cornerstone premises of the movie, which is that Litwack is wiring up the arcade with internet for the first time. We literally see him plug the router into Game Central Station, which, by the way, I can't believe that this router he bought at the store has a grounded 3-prong plug. Have you ever seen that? It's always just a 2-prong plug, but that's not the point. The point is, ostensibly, Litwack has never had internet, let alone Wi-Fi, and yet, look here, when Vanellope and Ralph make their way onto the internet for the first time, this decades-old 80s arcade appears to be hardwired with Cat6 cable. They've got Ethernet going straight from the router into the wall. I find it pretty hard to believe that this ancient building had network running through the walls already, so having not one but two Cat6 jacks right on the wall behind the arcade machines seems pretty dubious to me. Moving right along, and let's stick with the router while I'm complaining about technological problems, and let's talk about how the new router is dead even though it's already plugged into the internet. You'll remember when our heroes first ride the wire up inside of the router, it's a wasteland, it's dead, there's not a bit of data flowing through it. And it's not until Litwack connects his computer via Wi-Fi to the router that it comes alive and the bits start flowing. But that's not how internet routers work. The internet should be flowing through the router all the time, and connecting to it via Wi-Fi should just bring Litwack's computer alive. Yeah, I'm sure it's for dramatic effect so it comes alive when Litwack shows up, but it's technologically wrong. You gotta get some of the facts right so I can continue to suspend my disbelief on other things. Alright, let's head inside the network and talk about how eBay is broken inside of the world of Ralph Breaks the Internet. This online auction site is featured prominently in the world of the film. It's the way that Vanellope's going to get a new steering wheel for her game in the first place. But when they finally find the steering wheel and start bidding on it, they're completely breaking the rules of how eBay bidding works.
16!
17!
18!
20!
Ralph and Vanellope get into what is essentially a real-world auction environment where they're yelling numbers one higher than the other. But eBay is all about setting maximums. For example, if I bid $1 on something and you bid $10, the highest bid doesn't go to $10, it goes up to $1.50. What is the next increment above that's below my maximum? But here you see them screaming numbers over each other and they're jumping to their highest bid. At one point, Ralph even outbids himself.
15,000!
15,000? Do I hear 15.5?
15.5er!
Totally impossible in eBay. The best you could do is raise your maximum bid. And without this broken bit of eBay logic, it never would have cost them so much for the steering wheel in the first place. They probably could have got the wheel for just a few $100s, and that's money they could have easily made with Spamly at Loot Finder, and the movie would have been over in about 45 minutes. And before we leave eBay, there's one more specifically around the world of eBay, and this is one that my daughter picked up on. The listing for the Sugar Rush steering wheel clearly states that it has free shipping, but it doesn't say anything about expedited shipping. But when Ralph goes to check out, the cashier at eBay clearly says,
"With expedited shipping, sir, you owe $27,001.
What?
And that's expedited shipping for not a penny more than his high bid price. If there are two things true in the universe, it's there's no such thing as a free lunch, and there's no such thing as free expedited shipping on eBay. For a lot of moviegoers, one of the coolest parts of Ralph Breaks the Internet was seeing all the Disney princesses together in one place and working with Vanellope. And while I'll agree this was great fun, I did catch just a bit of continuity error that's introduced by C-3PO when he shows up in the dressing room to tell the princesses they need to get back to work. When we're first introduced to the princesses, they're playing which Disney princess is your BFF. But yet when C-3PO comes to tell them to get back to work, he says,
5 minutes, princesses. Another which Disney princess are you quiz that starts in 5 minutes.
So which is it? Which princess are you? Which one's your BFF? Make up your mind. You could argue that both games exist, but he makes it sound like it's time to get back to what they were previously doing, so I'm gonna stand firm that this is actually a continuity problem. Okay, this one may be the biggest problem that I have with the movie, and that is the problem with Arthur the Virus. It's been established over and over in the Ralph Breaks the Internet universe that any code that's inside of a game when it's rebooted gets deleted. It's lost forever.
And whatever you do, don't die. Because if you die outside your own game, you don't regenerate. Ever. Game over.
So when Arthur the Virus invades Slaughter Race, and the way they're gonna get rid of it is to reboot Slaughter Race, it's urgent that they get Vanellope out of the game before it's rebooted or she will die, gone forever. And while Ralph does save Vanellope at the last possible second, he doesn't save Arthur. You can clearly see Arthur coming out of the game after the reboot alive. He is code that does not exist in Slaughter Race, therefore after a reboot, he should have died just like Vanellope was at risk of dying. If this part of the film had followed the rules of the universe, the entire third act where the internet gets destroyed would never have happened. For these next few, let's head back into Litwack's arcade, and I want to talk about the sunrise in Game Central Station. In one of the first few shots of the film, you can see the sunlight streaming in through the front door of Litwack's and shining on that empty plug on the side of the Game Central Station power strip. It's established that the sun is coming in through that plug, and that's how the characters in Game Central Station know the sunrise is there and it's time to get to work. But that port is filled when Litwack plugs in the router. Therefore, the sunlight should not be able to make its way into Game Central Station. Later at the end of the film, the sunlight is seen streaming in through some side windows that didn't have light streaming in before. However, that side of the power strip is facing the wall, not the front window. But hey, if all the plugs are full, the plugs are full. Light should not be streaming in. This next one suggests that Wreck-It Ralph either can't tell time, or he has amnesia, or he's forgotten what happened in the first film. In the opening sequences, when Ralph and Vanellope are hanging out, he says this about his history.
Yeah, for 27 years I was a total zero without any friends.
Yeah, 27 years. But if you'll remember, in the first film, he was celebrating the 30th anniversary of his game.
Today is the 30th anniversary of my game.
In fact, that was the whole point of the party that he wasn't invited to up at the top of the Nicelanders building. And add to that this film takes place 6 years after the first one. So it should be more like 36 years, not 27, that he's been doing his job. And before we get away from Litwack's arcade, let's talk about how Sugar Rush somehow lost an entire half of its game. In the original Wreck-It Ralph, Sugar Rush is very clearly a two-seater, two-screen, two-player racing game. But jump forward to Ralph Breaks the Internet, and there's just one seat. What happened to the whole second half of Sugar Rush? First and foremost, there was no explanation of what happened to half of this racing game, but maybe if I let you slide with the fact that maybe they just decommissioned that one and put it in the back, when Vanellope's steering wheel breaks, you could have got the spare part from the old seat that isn't being used anymore. That literally would have eliminated the entire sequence of events that got Ralph and Vanellope into the internet in the first place. So maybe I get why they didn't talk about it, but why change the very configuration of Sugar Rush, leaving this gaping plot hole without explaining how or why that second half is gone? But they didn't do that, so there's something else that's wrong. Hey, thanks, you made it to the end of the video. I promise you, if you stuck it out with me, that here at the end I would share with you something you probably missed that links up Ralph Breaks the Internet with a 1999 cult comedy classic, and one of my favorites. You'll remember when Ralph was busy making viral videos in order to raise the money to pay the eBay bill that he ran up. And one of the ways the movie showed how successful his viral video efforts were was by showing all these office workers excited to see Ralph doing these crazy things on video. But what you may not have noticed is over on the wall of one of the cubicles, very clearly we can see the Initech logo and TPS reports. Yep, the same Initech logo and TPS reports made famous by Mike Judge's 1999 Office Space.
Yeah, you apparently didn't put one of the new cover sheets on your TPS reports.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I forgot.
Yeah.
So it's very plausible that our red swing line loving Milton Wadhams was one of the people watching these viral videos made by Wreck-It Ralph. I, for one, thought that was a pretty awesome Easter egg that they threw in for fans of Office Space. Well, that's going to do it for my list of everything that's wrong with Ralph Breaks the Internet. What do you think of my points? You agree? You disagree? Call shenanigans? Are there some that you saw that I didn't? Tell me about it in the comments down below. I hope you found something to enjoy in this video, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye. Gen X Grown Up is dedicated to bringing you new Generation X inspired videos every week. Here are a couple more you can watch right now, but for even more, subscribe and enable those notifications. And if you love what we do, we invite you to support us over on Patreon. And of course, your feedback in the comments and a quick thumbs up are always appreciated.